Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome back to Three Buck Theater, where we're going to be talking about 20th Century Fox still wanting to do a goddamn Fantastic Four movie. No, no, no. Let it go. Let it die. Let it die. Don't get me wrong. I love Fantastic Four. All right, I did. I grew up watching the animated series. Never really read the comics, but I grew up on the animated series. I even have the DVD set of the full complete series of the animated show from the 90s, and it did not age well, but I remember growing up and loving it, and loving the stories and the characters, everything else. But the movies have not been the best goddamn thing ever. However, I will point out one thing about the movies. I will say this about the movies: it gave us Chris Evans in a superhero role, with being Johnny Blaze, or Johnny Storm, sorry, not Johnny Blaze, totally fucked that one up. It allowed us to see him in that role, which then also prepared him to be Captain America, of which he has kicked serious ass. So the good thing to come out of that was Chris Evans, and alternatively, Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm was perfect casting, amazing casting. And I would love it if they brought him back for whatever movie they plan on doing next. But here's what's going on. So, all right. Simon Kinberg was giving an interview about with comicbook.com about Logan coming out and everything, and they touched on Fantastic Four, and it says here that popular review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes has the film at an abysmal 9% from critics and 18% from fans. Even 20th Century Fox executives admit it didn't turn out how they wanted. Kinberg saying here, Hutch, Parker, and I were together on Fantastic Four, the most recent one. We love that cast. Obviously, the movie wasn't what we wanted it to be, and it wasn't received the way we wanted it to be. You think? Like, I didn't see the movie in theaters because when the director comes out, like, the day that the movie is releasing and says, this isn't the movie I wanted to make, it pretty much shows you a lack of faith in the project that the director, Josh Trank, who reports came out of tons of issues with this movie during production and everything else. But if he comes out and kind of disavows the project prior to anything, then you know that there's a problem. And this is definitely something where the studio stepped in to try to salvage it to the best of their ability, or they fuckered it all up. We literally have no idea. But what we got was the best that they came up with. And truth be told, what we got was really bad. Like, I waited to home video to watch the movie. It wasn't the worst thing I'd ever seen. It wasn't anywhere near the best thing I'd ever seen. It's not something I want to see again. Although I would watch it over, let's say, watching Ghostbusters another time. There were elements of the first movie, of a Fan Four Stick, that were okay. There were elements that were okay, but everything else just felt so disjointed. And the reason why Kinberg, they want to make more, obviously, because they have the rights to this. They kind of have to, if not, they're going to lose them. But Kinberg says here that, yes, we'd love to make another Fantastic Four movie. We feel like there's a great Fantastic Four movie to be made, and I think it would be, it would hew closer to the tone of the original, the source material, the comics, but we want to make that movie. Well, yeah, you want to make that movie. You even admit that you strayed too far away from the core aspects of Fantastic Four in order to make that movie. Like, Fan Four Stick, what? Like, I understand you want an origin film. I understand you want all that, but there was, like, so little character interactions where they were, like, developed becoming the first family, And of course, like, the thing is that the cast was good. I really liked Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm. I thought he was great. Miles Teller as Reed Richards, I liked. Whoever the fuck played Doctor Doom, that was bad. That made no fucking sense, and it was horribly done. And again, look, there's way more villains to Fantastic Four than just Doctor Doom. We've had 3 Fantastic Four movies, and they've both featured fucking Doctor Doom. Or they've all featured Doctor Doom as the bad guy. So he says here, too, that fans would certainly love a more faithful and optimistic take on Fantastic Four that makes it feel more like a fantastic adventure with a family of four, while Fox's first two takes on the making of the film franchise at least had brightly colored blue costumes. They, too, strayed primarily in how they handled the villains. Galactus was a bad one. Galactus was just a gigantic fucking solar storm or whatever the fuck it was. Although, the Silver Surfer was cool to see. I mean, like, I don't think anyone can really deny that it was cool to see the Silver Surfer. Never mind the fact I know Doug Jones, who was in the costume for the Silver Surfer. So that's again, like a little bit of like, my bias is there because I know the guy who was in it. But Fantastic Four on its own, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm at this point now where I just don't want to see it rebooted, unless it's going to be done right, unless it's going to be done in a way that is going to be faithful to the comics. And here's what I would do if I were Simon Kinberg. Okay, this is what I would do. Because he's got an in at Lucas, which means he's got an in at Disney, which means he's got an in at Marvel, and these guys all know each other. I would try to find a producer there that is heavily involved in the creative side of things. Now, getting that producer to leave and go over to Fox is very much going to be difficult to do because I'm pretty sure the way that Marvel runs the studios, at least, is very tight-knit, and they love what they do. But if he could, I would ask to borrow a producer, right? Bring him over to Fox, develop the Fantastic Four, how you're going to do it, have it stray close to the comics, go from there. Likelihood of that happening is very, very, very small, because what this article doesn't talk about is the hatred that Marvel Studios has with Fox. All right, there's a hatred there, and it's shown through merchandising. Now, if you look at the way that Sony and Spider-Man were treated by Marvel in terms of merchandising when there was a new Spider-Man film, the reason why is because, well, the merchandising rights were sold back to Marvel when Sony needed the money, so that's why Marvel was pushing all the merchandise. Fox has all the merchandising rights to everything X-Men and everything else, so Marvel makes no money, which is one of the reasons why they've started not scaling back, they outright took out the Fantastic Four. They stopped making comics with them because they weren't making any money. Like Marvel was specifically targeting Fantastic Four as a way to tank it, right? From at least a merchandising and co-marketing perspective. The fact that the movie was a gigantic steaming turd didn't help at all, or didn't help Fox at all. But now we are where we are. But things are a little bit different. I would say now versus then, things are maybe a little bit different. Marvel is making, money hand over fist, and they might be a little bit more lenient, wanting to work with them, because they know that if the Spider-Man does well through MCU, and the deal they have with Sony, that Fox isn't too far behind, because Fox has some successes. Here's the thing, and I said this too: if Deadpool had not been a success, if it had been a failure, we would be seeing the characters from 20th Century Fox's X-Men going back over to Marvel. They would scrap everything after like Logan, right? They would scrap everything and they would go back to Marvel. Hands down, go back to Marvel, because that's how it would work, because Marvel is just like a money churning machine and Fox would want that money. So that's what would happen. But because Deadpool was a success, we didn't get that. X-Men Apocalypse failing definitely added to that a little bit. Might push the conversation again down the road, especially if like the New Mutants movie and the next X-Men movie don't do very well. But if Logan does very well and Deadpool 2 coming out next year does very well, again, those conversations are just not going to happen. And now that we're seeing Fox kind of push X-Men into the realm of television with Legion and the upcoming TV series, then you can see what might be happening with that. So what I would like to see is I'd like to see 20th Century Fox look at Fantastic Four, think of it from how Marvel would produce it, and go from there. And you know what? Even if Kinberg has to go on the DL over to Marvel and talk to Kevin Feige, like, dude, I need your fucking help on this one. Like, seriously, I will rub you out in the back. Just help me out here. Like, then that would be worth it, because otherwise Fantastic Four is just going to go the way of the dodo, and then those rights will return to Marvel, and Marvel may or may not make a movie with that. We don't even know. They may just say, fuck it, it's already been dead for so long, there's no point of rebooting it, even though they have the rights back, because they're already on like phase 5 or phase 6. So we'll have to see what happens. But honestly, I'm not optimistic about this at all. I don't really feel it's going to be worthwhile to the extent that Fox wants it, and it might be best just to let that property die off and focus on the properties that they do have that are not completely steaming piles of shit. So that would definitely be my thoughts on that. But what are your thoughts? I want to know in the comments below. Go ahead and write them down. My name is Matt Jarbo. Be sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, check back often for more content. I'll check you guys out later. This has been $3 Theater, and peace out.